Okay, yeah, let's go. We will be discussing week 4. So what I will do is try and share the screen. Let's do this. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. So this is what we'll be discussing. A detailed lesson prototype and user requirements. Covers the full explanation of all week 4 videos. Because on week 4 we have 4 videos. I try to just try and summarize everything, guys. So, okay, let's do this. This is what we have. We'll cover the all week 4 videos. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Let me put, I can't accept people-ish. Hey, sorry. I'll try and put my cursor on top because people are requesting, and also people are sending messages in the chat. You will help me with that one, and then I will try and accept a lot of people when they are requesting on my side. Okay, let's carry on, guys. We'll cover week 4, all 4 videos, including prototyping, using cases, user-centered design, and more. And then like each slide includes a speaker notes to help me explain better. And then like if you don't understand, a Theo on the other side will try and explain in a vivid explanation. So let's carry on, guys. Here we are defining prototyping. Is there someone speaking? Is there someone asking a question? Because I can't hear them. I thought someone was talking, sorry. So we have what is prototyping? A prototype is a simplified version of a final system. It can be paper-based, low fidelity, or digital high fidelity. It is used to simulate system features, to gather feedback, and then to refine ideas. So in this sense, I would explain a prototype to be when you are working on a project. Let's say you want to design a flying car, for an example. You will have a prototype. Like obviously you jot down, like do all those things before you go to the final product. Like if you are going to sell that product, they should be a prototype. You should build something and that will be a prototype to showcase people what your project is looking like, or like what is the purpose of it, like to show them the first thing, like first design. So I believe that's a prototype, but like I stand to be corrected. And then we will go to why prototyping is important. It is important because, okay, sorry about that. Why is prototyping important? It reduces development risk by identifying problems early, improves communication between users and developers. It helps validate requirements with real feedback. And also it saves cost and time before the final implementation. So these are the importance of prototyping. And we will go to types of prototypes. We have throwaway prototypes. It is a quick mock-ups discarded after use. I can't see someone who's requesting now. Theo, can you ask the people who are requesting on your side? You're doing it now? Okay, thanks a lot. So we have the evolutional prototypes improved through feedback until final. We have the horizontal prototypes, board features, no back-end logic. We have vertical prototypes, fully developed narrow feature set. And this one, I think I'm also struggling on my side. Theo, on your side, will you be able to dive deep into the types of prototypes as shown in the screen, like to give us a more broad explanation on them?
So I don't know specifically what each type of prototype there means, but basically what a prototype is, it's basically just the front end alone, and it's just meant to show how the app will look and work.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you want to show this to investors before you even start building your app.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So an example of this would be during the last live lesson, we used an example where we were building our own WhatsApp clone.
Uh-huh.
So here in this example, let's say we're building that same app. We just build the interface and no functions or features at all, just to show what it will look like and how we can go through it and stuff. And then that would be our prototype that we'd show to investors or people who want to get involved before we actually start building the real project.
Yes. And also to showcase for the users. Obviously, you need to have an audience, like people who will use the app. So like to show them, okay, maybe if Apple will be dropping another design for a watch, there will be a prototype that they will show to people. Okay, the next watch will be looking like this. These are the added features, or this is how it will help you guys. And they have to have a prototype for that. Thank you, boy. And then, like as we can see, guys, we have this four types of prototypes, and then we will move forward to steps in the prototyping process. Firstly, we identify the purpose and the scope of a prototype, and we build a basic version of the system. And then thirdly, we collect our user feedback, usability testing. And fourthly, we refine our discard based on a feedback. And lastly, we repeat until requirements are clear. So what I'm getting here when it says we identify the purpose and the scope of the prototype, you are going to ask yourself, okay, we are building this app. Why are we building this app? And also we will have a scope for the prototype as well. And then we will build a basic version of it, like just a base, not a full version, just a basic version. Because on our last lesson on Monday, we spoke about creating I made an example about creating an app for like primary school kids to help them with their homework. Before we launch that, we will create a basic version of it and like just play around with it. And also there will be methods where we will be asking like the user's opinion on this base version. And then we'll collect their feedback, because we will ask their opinions and everything, and then collect that feedback for like usability testing. And then after that we'll refine based on the feedbacks, and also repeat the requirements until everything is clear and you are ready to drop your project. And then we have advantages and disadvantages to help us clarify unclear requirements. These are the benefits. First benefit, it helps to clarify the unclear requirements of your prototype. Second, advantage, it involves users early for the better design before like you launch it and drop it. And then the third advantage, it saves money to reduce rework. More like you will be saving money rather than you'll build an app and then just launch it on Play Store. No one will download your app without knowing it, without you advertising it, without you showing them the prototype or like how everything works, or you need to get their feedback. Basically, you need to show them why they should have this app. You need to convince them why is it better for their lives. So like rather than you building something and then just dropping it, you'll spend a lot of money on that, paying for subscriptions to get like a full package for to get all the tools. Or maybe if you're not doing it alone, you'll be paying the team that will be helping you build that specific app or to develop that specific app, and then you will lose a lot now. And also that's an advantage. It helps you save money and it reduces the rework as well. And also we have two disadvantages. It may confuse users. It may, yeah, exactly. If you drop it like, okay, guys, download this app, it will confuse them because you didn't show them how everything works before the final product. You just dropped the final product. And also time consuming if not well managed as well. Time consuming, there will be bugs here and there, or maybe you will get a review obviously on Play Stores or like on when you want to, or App Store as well. If you want to download something, there will be reviews. Before on my side, I download an app, I also check reviews about this specific app. So it is time consuming because a lot of people, you will have bad reviews, and also your rating is going to be low, and also you will have to rebuild the app from scratch, or maybe you will have to try and fix all of those bugs, of which that situation could have been avoided.
So just touching on the cons there, the two cons that you give us is that when a user sees it, even though it's a prototype, they might think that's a final design, and that could lead to negative reviews. Now, an example of this is recently, well, not recently, within the last couple of years, there have been a lot of new AI that came out, and a lot of them were dealing with creating images and creating videos. And if we go back in time a couple of years, when those first image creation AIs came out, if you looked at the comments on those videos, everyone was just laughing at it and saying, it can't make hands properly and all of that. But that was actually the prototype design for that AI. And if we look at the modern ones now, they actually fixed those issues. But back then, when they were showing the prototype, they got a lot of negative feedback.
Okay, thank you for that. Before we proceed, anyone with any question? Do you guys have questions? You can also read the chat on your side. For sure people are going to type on the chat. There's no one with any question. So there's no one with any questions. Okay, let's proceed. And then we have use case diagrams, visual tools that show how users interact with the system. Each use case represent a function. Okay, I don't think we do have diagrams. I didn't include diagrams, but the diagram though I'll send on the side because I didn't have the time to create all of them on the other side. So, but let's just go through it. Okay, each represent a function. The system performs, help developers understand and plan system functionality. Use case diagrams. I think they're talking about the diagrams before, like when you're planning for a prototype. We will have visual tools that show how users interact with the system, and also each use case, it represents a function for the system's performance, and also help developers to understand and plan system functionality. So user-centered design method focused on user needs and behaviors. And then it involves users in every phase, planning, design, and also testing. And it leads to more usable and successful systems. So this is user-centered design. On your side, Theo, are you going to be able to clarify more on the user-centered design?
Yes, so basically what that means is when you design how the layout of your app fits together, you want to think of it from the perspective of someone who's using the app or the website. Sometimes we get carried away about adding features and having, a lot of buttons and all of this on our site. And we often make stuff that wouldn't be easy to use from a user's perspective, especially someone who's not tech savvy.
Okay. I hope that is clear for everyone, guys. Um, we come to the end of week 4 detail presentation. It's a prototype user. It's a prototype. We spoke about prototype, and then we also spoke about user case, actors, user-centered design, and then we need to, okay, I don't think this is really important. So now let me check on my side for more for more information. Maybe I'll try to make an example, right? Hey guys, I'm not really prepared for today, but like let's go on. We spoke about, okay, what a prototype is. We said a prototype is an early, or it's a simplified model of a software used to simulate how a final product looks and work, right? And it can range from a paper sketch, and also it can interact. Maybe it's clickable, mock-up, things like that. You can like build a simulation of it basically. And then also, if I make examples of a prototype, it is you remember last week we spoke about the wireframes. So it is a paper wireframes, more like that's a low fidelity of it. And then the high fidelity of it, it's a simulation whereby you click you are able to just play around with it and see how it will work before you build the final product, of which that is called a clickable app mock-ups. That is a high fidelity of a prototype. And then the low one, it's paper wireframe. And then also, let's add why does prototype matter, or why prototyping matters? It mitigates risk early, identify design flaws before you invest heavily in coding. It improves communication. Users and developers share a visual understanding instead of just words. And also it validates the requirements, right? It confirms what needs building with the real user feedback. You see, you're going to send it to the users, and then the users are going to give you a feedback, and then you need to confirm, you need validation of like what needs to be fixed. And also it saves time and money, which means changes are cheaper at the planning stage than at the post-development stage. And also, we mentioned types of the prototypes, of which we said it's a throwaway, it's a evolutionary or a functional. I like to call it a functional. And we have a horizontal and also a vertical prototype. Okay, a throwaway, as you can see on the screen, it's a quick it is used to clarify interface and also needs, and also sometimes it is discarded. And also the evolutionary evolutional okay the evolutionary prototype, it builds upon each interaction. Some versions evolve directly into part of the final system. And then horizontal, it is a broad functionality. Also, it has many screens and no logic. And then the vertical one is a deep implementation in a specific area. For an example, one full functional feature. So it's unlike the horizontal. The horizontal one, the example here has many screens and also it has no logic. And then moving forward to, we spoke about prototyping processes, the steps. Yeah, we spoke about the steps of which we identify purpose and the scope, meaning we define what feature or the interface to prototype. And also we build iteratively, which means start simple and then gradually add details based on the feedback. And then we get users' feedback, of which we conduct usability test or it's a walkthrough. And also lastly, we refine or we discard, of which it's we evolve further or discard and start a new until requirements are clear. So that's the last step on the prototype process steps. And then we have advantages and disadvantages, of which we spoke about here, of which any clarity, that's the first advantage. It reduces it clarifies, it reduces the cause of getting errors, and also enhanced communication and user involvement. That's a second one, of which here we have it involves users early for a better design. And then another one, it helps catch issues early and improve usability. And then it also saves money by reducing the rework. And then the disadvantages we have, it may confuse users on the final look. And then anyone speaking? Okay, time consuming, if not well designed. So on my side, disadvantages, it may mislead stakeholders into thinking it's it's the final step. As Theo said here, he made an example about the AI a few years back. There was a prototype of an AI, and then a lot of people were like shaming it. There was a lot of negativity because they thought it was a final product, of which it was not the final product. That was just a prototype. They were just showing us how it will look and at how it will work. They during that time they haven't like added a lot of features on it, and also it can be resource consuming if overdone. That's another disadvantage, and risk of building an unscalable product. That's also okay. We have two. Yeah. Why am I adding three? We have two. So, and then we have like other concepts, which it was user requirements and the user cases. User requirements documents are the key tool to communicate with the system and they must deliver and often used for contracts. And also the use case diagrams are they graphically represent user system interaction actors and user case in the UML format. And then we have user-centered and also human-centered design. User-centered, user at the center through research and usability testing throughout development. Let's see what that is. A human-centered design. Human-centered design are used in the ISO standards. It is an approach to problem solving commonly used in process, product, services, and also system design management. Theo, do you know anything about the human-centered design?
Yes, I think that ties back a bit to what we were speaking about earlier, which is we need the interface to be designed in a way that the average person can use it. because when we're designing something, we can easily be distracted by adding new features to it and stuff like that, and it can end up becoming too clumped and a bit too difficult to use for users that are not used to working with difficult interfaces, or we may find it easier to use for us because we're more used to working with like programming and more advanced stuff. And yeah, when you're building those interfaces, you want to be sure to design them in a way that they're made for people who are brand new to using them to kind of intuitively use how they work.
Okay. So I think we've covered week 4. I'm sure this is what they all spoke about on all of those videos. They spoke about prototyping. I don't think so, but this is the first video. Like this is the first video on week 4 because we have 4 different videos on week 4, of which we're still going to dive deep into that. So going into the questions, anyone with any questions before we start going through the questions I have? Anyone on your side, Theo, on the chat?
I don't see any questions coming in right now.
Okay, let me forward those questions on your side, Theo, and then tell me if you can open them, and then just go through them and ask. I was saying, can you open the slide, the PowerPoint slide I just sent you for the questions?
Okay, just trying to get it open now. I can't seem to open it from my phone. Okay, I'm seeing the file, but there's no actual questions in here. It's just like a template to ask people to ask for questions.
Okay, let's do this. I apologize. Okay, I think someone sent something on the chat. I think we can ask, you see on the link I sent you, we need to create more vivid questions, like more professional questions than these ones. We don't have anything much. Okay, here are the questions. On page 4, do you see them? What's the difference between a prototype and the final product?
Okay, so the difference between a prototype and the final product is that a prototype doesn't necessarily need to work. What it does need to do is show a good enough front end meaning the interface that we're showing to the user. So for example, right now we're using team meetings. The front end is just the buttons and the interface of it. The back end, well, I don't know if you can really call this a back end, but it's how we're all connected to each other right now. So if this software were in a prototype stage right now, we wouldn't have the functionality to actually connect to each other, but the interface itself would look exactly the same as it does right now. And that's so that we can show it to people and say this is what it will look like when it's complete.
Okay. Anyone who needs more explanation on that, or do you understand it, or do you want it to be explained again? Did you hear that, Theo, on your side?
Yeah, so basically, when we're building our prototype, if you look at the Teams meeting app that we're using right now, it has a lot of buttons on the interface, and it has a chat built into it, and it also has the screens of the people who are in the meeting right now. So if this were in a prototype stage, we'd still design the interface exactly the same. We just wouldn't design the way for people to connect with each other yet, so we wouldn't design the calling option. But the interface itself, like the way all the buttons are set up and that we can navigate between the tabs, all of that would already be there in the prototype stage, so that when we show it to someone, perhaps an investor, we can tell them this is what the final design will look like when we're complete.
And then the second question goes as follows. Can you show another use case example? Or maybe like can you give us an example of a use case?
Okay, so I don't have the project anymore, but last night I actually was building a project myself, And what I wanted it to do was connect to a TikTok live stream and basically pull comments from that live stream and display it in the app. So originally, I didn't have a way to connect to the live stream, but I built the interface for myself. And to actually show comments in that interface, I just put a list there and I put fake comments inside of that list just so that it has something to display. And yeah, that's basically how a prototype would work. It wouldn't be working with real live data. It would just be like a example that you make yourself just to show how the final design will look.
Okay. And then another question, how do I know if my requirement is functional or non-functional?
I'm not sure what you mean by requirement in that question.
Okay. By requirements, I mean, how can I put this?
Okay, I'm guessing by requirements you mean when you're first coming up with the idea of the app, you have a list of requirements which you want to be implemented into the app.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the prototyping stage, that's where you'd see if those features that you thought of beforehand actually fit into the design. It might be that you thought of an idea that actually doesn't match with the other ideas that you had. They don't go together well. And in that stage of the prototyping, you can basically filter out the ideas that don't really work.
Okay. By requirements, yeah, you're right, basically. But like, I'll give you an example. Okay, let me give you an example. An example is maybe the system must allow the user to log in for like a functional requirement. You get it? The system must allow users to log in. And then another example for the non-functional requirements, performance, security, usability. Systems should be able to respond within 2 seconds. You get it?
Okay, well, let's talk about those first two requirements you gave me, which is someone should be able to log in, and the other one is that it should have security. So maybe while you were thinking of the idea, you came up with those two ideas as part of your design. But when you actually go about implementing this, you find that there's no actual reason for a user to log in. Because remember, the main reason someone would log into a website or something would be that the website has some sort of creation tool on it, and whatever you created on that website needs to be stored to your account. So, for example, on WhatsApp, the messages you send need to be stored on your specific account. They can't be accessible to anyone that uses WhatsApp. But on, for example, YouTube, let's say we were using YouTube just to watch something, not to create our own videos or something. In that case, we wouldn't need to implement that sign-in feature because we're just using it to watch content. We're not using it to create our own stuff. And then the same goes for security. You might have decided beforehand that your app needs to be very secure and you need to implement like special security features in your app. But when you're actually designing it, you realize that users are not putting in sensitive data into the app. So for example, the app doesn't require users to put in their credit card information or personal information about themselves. And because it doesn't collect that type of information from the user, then you won't need to secure it as much as you thought you'd need to.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone with any questions before we just go through the questions I just asked, and then like since it's going to be 7 now, we are going to end it. Like now it's your time. We are giving everyone to just speak, ask a question, everything, even if it's on the chat. Or you want us to go back to this on prototyping? Want us to go back to the definition, the importance of it, the types of it, advantages? Someone, did you see the question?
Yeah, so I want to take that question because there's a lot of people asking that in my groups as well. I know we had a section in the week's lessons where they were showing us about deployment and how to make the APK from our projects that we were making. Actually, what's happening there is right now we're doing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And while there are ways and tools to compile this into an app, there's specific frameworks and softwares as well that when you build inside of them, they natively take whatever code you've written and turn them into an app. An example of this would be React Native. So if you use React Native, you don't need to add anything to it. You just build your app inside of it and you generate your APK from there. It would also make an iOS app. You could also use Swift, and that's a tool that when you create your app inside of it, it will automatically generate your iOS app from there. We also have Android Studio, and yeah, there's a lot of tools like that. So right now, what we're building, basically HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, is meant to run inside of a browser. It's not meant to be compiled into an app, but it can be compiled into an app by using a third-party tool, which I'm not really sure of any third-party tools that do that right now, but if you search on Google, I'm sure you'll find a couple.
Okay. Someone is saying in the chat, I just need help with GitHub. I enjoyed this lesson. Thanks. How do we make it available for the public on the browser?
Okay, so to make it public, basically your website, your files need to be accessible outside of your computer, because remember right now they're just sitting in a folder on your computer. So what you need is a hosting server, and you can either purchase one of these from a hosting company such as Truehost, or there's also some free alternatives out there like there's Vercel and Netlify, and there's also GitHub pages. So I don't know if you know this, but if you make a GitHub repo that has an index.html file on it, you can actually go into the settings of that GitHub repo and enable GitHub pages. And that will actually make a public URL where people can view your project from there. Not the project files, but the actual project itself.
Okay. Any questions, guys? If you have any other question besides the prototypes and all that.
Also, coming back to how we make our websites public and available to everyone, there's actually two stages to that. One is, as I said, getting a hosting provider, and the second is actually getting a domain name. So for example, when you go to Google, you'll notice that at the top bar there, you have to type in google.com. And that's because Google actually owns that word, google.com. That's called a domain. So for me, for example, I own a domain called codewithme.co.za. And yeah, basically once you have your hosting server, you just connect that domain to the hosting server. And then when someone types that domain name into their browser, that's how they'd get access to your site. But as I mentioned, GitHub pages, Vercel, and Netlify, they allow you to host for free. And they just give you like a temporary domain name to use as your domain if you don't own your own one.
Okay, thank you for that. I also have a question. It's just a random question. I think someone, okay, I'll ask this question after I think someone is typing in the chat. Okay, while they're still typing, let me just ask this question, right? What is it? Oh, okay, I think we did ask this question, did we? Okay, let me ask people on the chat. Theo, don't answer this. What is the purpose of creating a prototype, guys? It's just an easy, basic question. Okay, you can answer, Miss T.
Good evening, everyone. So the purpose of creating a prototype is it's like a mock-up for your users, just to show your clients how your app will look like.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. Users, by the way, but like even if it's clients, but like make sure it's users. What are the different types of prototypes? Okay, someone. Someone said on the chat, Theo, I have a problem with week 6 list. Images doesn't appear, and on my GitHub, I did register. I don't know what the problem is.
Okay, so for that question, I think that's more of a help me fix my code type of question. And as we mentioned in the last video, we'll use the groups for that. We won't really use these live lessons for that.
Yeah, you can go ask people on the group. You can go ask people in the group. And then someone said, okay, to test the product, to test your product. That was a question mark. To showcase rather than test it, because you are going to test it after, but like it is to showcase.
Okay, and someone is having trouble with GitHub there. Yeah, I do recognize that my video about GitHub is not that good. The reason why I failed to make that video good is because I already have Git and GitHub installed on my computer, so I had to go in like a really roundabout way to show you how to set it up. But if you just search on YouTube for setting up Git and GitHub, I'm sure you'll find a better video out there.
Another question goes as follows. How is the prototype different from a wireframe or a mockup?
So with the wireframe or a mockup, you don't necessarily have the interface built. It's just basically a drawing.
Exactly.
Some wireframing tools, they allow you to put actual components inside to see what it will look like, but it's not something that you can take out of that software and go show it to someone in real life. A prototype is something that's actually fully built and you can show to someone.
Yeah, which means it's more like an interactive model, right? A prototype is an interactive model that simulates functionality, by other words. And then a mock-up, it is a static. You remember I said it was a high fidelity visual design. It is a static high fidelity visual design. And then a wireframe is a basic low detailed layout showing. It's more like it's a drawing, as you said it. So yeah, I think that's all.
Okay, so we have a question here. What are firewalls? So okay, imagine your own home computer, right? No one is allowed to connect to it. I can't come from my computer and just randomly connect to yours and take stuff off of it. But on a website, we are allowed to connect to the computer that website is being hosted on. So a firewall is what dictates those rules. So you can write inside of your firewall, okay, people are allowed to connect on this port and they're allowed to do action 1, 2, 3, but they're not allowed to do these other actions. And yeah, firewall is where you keep those rules and it's what maintains those rules.
I hope you answered the question correctly. And also, another thing I need you to do on your spare time, guys, it is to just do research on the tools that you can use to create a prototype. Remember last lesson I spoke about a Figma. So I spoke about like a Figma and a Sketch as well. But like they actually like more than that. You should just on your spare time like research the tools you can use to create a prototype. So yeah, I think that's all from my side.
While we're talking about the tools that we use to prototype, if you look at something like Figma, you might notice that they really push you to get the paid option there. But in actual fact, like a prototyping tool is the same as something you draw in. So you can do the same thing in basically Microsoft Paint. It just won't be interactive. The tool I like to use is called Inkscape. It's a vector drawing software. It's literally meant for just drawing things. But yeah, you can use it for designs as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that recommendation. You should look into it, guys. Anyone with any question? Okay, another last question is, what should we look for when evaluating prototypes usability? What should we look for when evaluating a prototype usability?
So I'm not sure if you meant for me to answer that or for someone in the chat to answer that.
I'm waiting for people in the chat to answer it. If they don't understand, you can help them. Anyone on the chat, what should we look for when evaluating a prototype usability? Okay, I'll just mention 2 points and then Theo will mention like other points if he also has an answer on that. On my side, I would say, are users able to complete tasks easily without getting confused? And also another one, do they understand the layout and also the options on the prototype? And then Theo, you can answer that question.
Yeah, so I think you covered it quite well. But I just want to say, when we're speaking about how users interact with our tool that we made, we're not speaking about you, because you are not a user. You're someone that's good at tech already. You're a tech person. So we want to know, how does the average person that just basically uses their phone to message people and call people and stuff, how does that type of person use our app, and are they comfortable inside the app?
All right. And also, where do they struggle or get confused? That's also another one. And lastly, I'll ask this one, how can we tell if a prototype is successful? How can we tell a prototype is successful? We actually covered that when we were just going through the summary. Anyone in the chat? I don't understand. Which part don't you understand specifically? I think on how well the finished product turns out. Yes. You can spice up your answer. And Iwa was like, I don't understand. Which part don't you understand? Leander, if to answer this question, you can be like, okay, the question is like, how can we tell if a prototype is successful? Can it solve the user's problems? Remember, the reason why we built this app is to solve a user's problems. So yeah, we will dive into that maybe when you're still coding. If like did the product turn out well? Did the finished product turn out well? But the main priority is to see if it solved the user's problems, and also users can navigate it with a little to no help. You remember Theo recently mentioned something of like, when we speak about a user, we speak about someone who has zero knowledge about like tech, someone who will just use it, like just a user. Is he or she going to struggle when navigating throughout the app? Are the buttons gonna confuse him? Like just everything. And also the stakeholders, do they approve the direction? And also, does it inform or a clear development plan? So Eo was like, I don't understand. Which part don't you understand? So we can try and explain it to you. Okay. Oh, I almost missed an important question. I think Theo, you can answer this one because people are quiet. What are the risks of skipping a prototyping in a project?
So the risks of skipping a prototype is basically you may not have a good interface when you're done. Like I said, last night I was working on a project, and the first thing I did was build the interface. There was no even features in there, just feeding fake data to the interface. But in doing that, I was able to see how it will look when it was completed. Now, if I didn't do that and I first started getting the data, what would happen is I might display it in a bad way. And to me, it may not seem so bad because I haven't tested it out with actual users. And then I go and release this final build into the public, and everybody doesn't like the design. And yeah, that's basically what would happen.
Leander is saying, so it's for getting peer review as well. Exactly. You can put it like that. You can put it like that. I remember we were speaking about the is it gorilla method? Do you remember last session we were speaking about the gorilla method? Do you remember what I said was a gorilla method? It's gorilla, yeah, gorilla method. Spelled like this. So it's for getting peer review. Okay, it's spelled like this. Let me type it in the chat. This gorilla I'm talking about. The gorilla method. It's GU. It's gorilla testing, right? Testing or method. So when you say peer, you can also mention this gorilla testing. Do you remember what I said a gorilla testing is? I said that's to get it is a quick and inexpensive way of testing a prototype or a website with a real users. Yeah, a gorilla. We mentioned that. I said you can even check. I think it's in the notes I sent, the slide I sent for last week. You can even go through them. It's a quick way. It's a quick and yeah, it's a quick way of testing a prototype or a website with the real users. More like you'll just go around and then asking people around to just use your app or use your website with you giving them a zero help on it and see how they navigate through it. So yeah, we spoke about that. And yeah, I think that's it on my side. I think that's it on my side. Anyone with any question? There's no one with no question, right, guys? I think we can close it here. And also, our next session is going to be on Friday, right? Yes, our next session is going to be on Friday. And what do you want us to discuss on Friday? Because I'm thinking maybe I'll go through, because I didn't have time to go through all of the videos of week 4. As I mentioned, we have 4 videos with 4 live lectures on YouTube, the recorded ones for week 4. Obviously, I will touch on that, and also I will touch on week 5, because week 5 we have 2 videos on week 5. Yeah, we have 2 videos, and then after that we can push everything until the last week, every video until the last week. And also I will create I will try and create questions and also a memo and all that, so we can be able to be prepared for the assessment. So yeah, that's it on my side, guys. I think we are done. If no one has any question, I think we are done. Or Theo, do you want to ask them a question?
No, I don't have any questions right now. But since we were talking about like how do we design things in terms of usability and stuff a lot in this video, I think now would be a good time to say when you're designing an app, like not just designing it, but like doing the marketing, designing it, showing people what you've made, you always want to do it from the perspective of someone who's like a potential customer. Because remember, you can build something that's 100% perfect, it works, there's no flaws with your app. But if you're not reaching the right customers, no one's even going to know that your app exists.
Exactly. So yeah, that's it for today's lesson, guys. And we'll continue properly on Friday. You can even go through the videos yourself, and if you don't understand something, just write it down. And then while we are doing live sessions like this, you can also ask questions so you don't get lost. Meantime, you can you revisit on that, and then write questions, and then I come and ask questions here, and then we'll try and do everything. So yeah, thank you, Miss T. I think Miss T is okay. So yeah, guys, have a blessed one. I think we are done now.